Très bien, je vois que tout le monde...
So you've all taken back your seats. So I suggest we move on now to the roundtable regarding digitization. And I would like to give the floor to Gaetan, who's going to be the facilitator of this topic with all his colleague speakers. Good afternoon to all of you. It's a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon regarding digitization, which is a very important topic. And so we've already broached a part of it with the presentation of the ACA regarding data and else. So today I think we're going to focus on the four axes we defined regarding legal, technical, human, and also environmental. So I would like to start with the ladies. First, Faustine, Cachera, Sébastien Champio, that's SOGELIFE, Sébastien Proye, regarding digital transformation and customer experience at Bâloise, Takom, who is IT director at Lombard, Nicolas Boulart, head of operation at GBO Cloud, and Serge Borg on my left, leadership and transformation of culture for businesses, and also Evrard and Boulart. So, I mean, the sound is not that perfect, but I mean, otherwise, I mean, you have sort of headsets below the tables. Now, after having introduced the panelists, let's now draw the context. I mean, digitization, is it an end in itself? What is your vision? What do you think? Of course, I mean, when we speak about digitization, more digital transformation, we only think of digital, and you only think, I mean, and of course, I mean, it's not an end to itself. It's a mean, what for? I mean, we spoke about the complexity of the processes, the complexity of the services we may offer. I mean, it's a way of simplifying them, and through this, I mean, it is a simplifying life of our customers, our employees, for example, and intermediaries also with whom we work, be they agents or brokers. And so this is why we should not look at digital transformation as just a digital sphere, but just a strategy, I mean, a client-oriented strategy for the satisfaction of the customer. So this is why this notion is very important, because the digital transformation, I mean, covers the whole business. I mean, it covers the business, I mean, change, management, culture. So let's bear in mind that digitization and digital transformation is something to please our customers and satisfy our customers. So thank you. Thank you very much for the transitions. I'm going now to speak to Abraham regarding technical aspect, and then Serge. So Abraham, what are the starting postulate? I mean, talking to the IT director before jumping into this digitization project. So the very first thing we have to mention is that digital transformation transforms the business activities. Can be an aspect of the business or just a question the business model of the whole company. So as the person in charge of the information system in the company, I need a clear understanding of the transformation of my company. So at Lombard, we started with this. I mean, what were the objectives in terms of business? So that making business with Lombard would be as easy as possible with our partners, but is also maintain the brand image of the Lombard, that is a tailor-made product. And once the technology understands the objectives to be reached, then it is far easier to raise the right question. That is, do we have the right technology to reach these objectives? Do we have the necessary human resources with the right skills and expertise to reach these objectives? And have we defined enough the criteria to allow us as we progress in this direction? Because this it's a long way process. I mean, have we sufficiently defined the criteria which will help us know that we are on the right way, or if we need some adjustments depending on what we observe all along our way? So these are the questions we raise once we understand clearly what the objectives are in terms of transformation. You talked about human aspects. I'm going to address Serge. When you speak about digitization, there's always a kind of frustration and fear, be it in the process in the companies, or be it with employees or intermediaries or customers. Some customers are sort of lost with the digital aspect. Employees sometimes fear that we take their position, and sometimes the matter of dehumanization. Also, speaking about digitization. Now, according to you, what are the point of focus? I mean, what should we pay attention to in terms of human aspect, talking about digitization? Thank you for your question. There are quite a few of them. The first thing is to bear in mind that man doesn't like change. And this is a matter of hindrance. Men and women do not like change when they do not understand the meaning of it, when they do not see their own interest. And as you say, I mean, when they are afraid, when they raise more fundamental questions. Now, what I see is that this kind of transformation is collaborative, as you said, and that was expressed by Sébastien. And so all the operating process in silo or half silos, I mean, are ill at ease and then affect the development and rolling out of the project. And this is the first element. The second element is that these processes we digitize used to operate smoothly, and seldom have I seen things saying that it's good. I mean, the way you've done this, it's great. I mean, and I see the other way around, and we look at all the mistakes we've done, and look at all the mistakes you've done, and all the inefficiency sources in your sphere of operation. And this is a very difficult experience when you're sort of self-focused or selfish. I mean, most of the time, and we think that it's not going well elsewhere, but most of the time it's not going well with us. And the third hindrance aspect is also in terms of rolling out all the world visions are being questioned. I mean, knowing that is the machine going to substitute a human being? I mean, will I be able to acquire new skills? I'm 50, I've learned quite a lot, and maybe I do not feel like learning more, and this might be a hindrance. So what can we do against this? I mean, develop a meaning, culture of nimbleness, for example, try to understand why and be able to speak about our emotions. Might be bizarre in a company, but still speak about them when we come to transforming the business. So that was talk of taking stocks, and we pointed out the human aspect, technical aspect. Now, Sébastien, could you take stocks regarding the state of the market? I'd like to have your feeling. First of all, it's very important to insurers, life insurers, manage to adapt and match the expectations of their partners. And through the COVID, for example, and pandemics, I mean, they had to adapt and find solutions very swiftly. And sometimes they were complex by the nature of the business, which means that we operate through service providing on various markets. So we offer solutions. It is difficult sometimes to digitize without standardizing it. And also the other difficulty is that the requests from our partners are not homogeneous up to date. That is that we're going to get requests from partners on the digital solutions which are their own systems developed. So what is the ability of the insurance to accept the partner solutions? Because they are going to develop their own solutions also, which are different. So for a partner, it's rather complex to manage with and cope with all this, because as we mentioned, I mean, about 4 insurers per broker, which means 4 ways of connecting, 4 different systems, 4 ways of working. So the questions that is raised today is the insurance solution. I mean, is it the only one which should prevail or exist? Nicolas. Of course, I mean, each one works independently, trying to work to provide the best service to the customer. And it's a first source of revenue. And then we speak about standardization, the essence of digitization. So with many standards on the market, Penelope, Penibim, I mean, just to mention 2 of them. Now, what is the advantage of having a standardization if, for example, it is standardized in Belgium, to take an example? Now, here I think there are 4 advantages which come out having a standard, and which shows that this data should be structured. And so this is what Sébastien was saying before. Some insurers work in a different way. Fair enough, but I mean, but then there's a time when we have to structure things, and there are 4 advantages. The first one is to increase the quality of work and human relationships, reducing the red tapes, and this allows us to increase and to improve the quality of human resources. I mean, in 2022, I mean, no broker likes to do encoding, for example, of various amounts in its management software. In case of damage, for example, a broker is going to try and get some documents and to help a client. We can spend more time on the relationships. The second thing is the second advantage of the data which is structured is to reduce paper red tape. I mean, it's good for environment. And not long ago, I mean, last week, I talked to an insurer who said, I mean, I had more than 3,000 documents, I mean, to manage and to send this month. I don't know how to digitize them. So what happens? I mean, everything's being sent by post in 2022. I mean, it was hallucinating, and I had just opened my eyes when you think that it costs 7.5 euros per mail. So the kind of environmental impact and cost impact also. And the cost, I mean, like digital, and we like to reduce the paper. And I mean, raise your hand. I mean, who would like to dream? Who dream about this? Of course, I mean, it's a pleasure to see so many people raising their hands. So less paper is good for the environment. So please, I mean, do not send us the commission certificates. And so let's get everything by mail and digitize. It will be much simpler. Digitization is good for everyone. All the more when we have the right data. Now, also legal obligations also, I mean, when there's a control, for example, or a checkup, I mean, you should not spend time looking for a document. And if everything has been updated in a database in your management software, for example, then the supervising operation, that will be less stressing. And the fourth aspect, the fourth advantage of the structured data is really to be able to analyze. And so recently I was talking to an underwriter, and he spoke and said he was having some accountancy issues, and then he made some research, and thanks to analysis he managed to solve profitability issues in his business thanks to the analysis and thanks to the data circulating. And this is also valid for the brokers. So I would say, I mean, to sum up, these structured data are of paramount importance, and I hope that we manage to have this system in Luxembourg also. And I would like to insist on the fact that technology should really serve the core of the broker business, that is counseling and assisting customers in their activities. Thank you. Eric, the Belgian policy in brokerage is something to be to envy. Could you please take stocks of the Belgian market in terms of brokerage? Thank you very much. Well, allow me to apologize for our president and Patrick Evrard. Unfortunately, couldn't join us because of his agenda. As a matter of fact, I would like to share with you the experience we have on the Belgian market, and it goes back to the 1990s, where the first digitization attempt were born with the first terminals, as we would call them at the time. And so we did something quite particular at home, because we live in a kind of ecosystem where everybody joined their effort to enrich this ecosystem in an efficient way. And so the consequence is that the brokerage has a very important market share, because which accounts to more than 50% in terms of insurance in Belgium. And so more specifically, this is due to the tools we have and a partner, Pertima, who allows us to make things easier, as Nicolas said, in terms of data sharing. Our data are normalized or standardized, which is free of charge. And all the businesses, all the businesses active in brokerage participate to this database, and Assuralia also. Now, all these little word feeds from the various exchanges to improve also the system to feed the various and respective softwares of the companies. So all the environment, and they all share information. So this allows to gather data which are the same for everyone. And this also facilitates the life of the brokers. So which standard do you use? The Belgian standard adopted by all the insurance companies, so which allow Cortima grants a kind of common portal, and then you inject data by the brokers for the companies and the companies for the brokers. Indeed, yes. Everybody speaks the same language, which is funny enough, because we have sometimes a language issue in our country. But all this is being integrated and allows us to evolve with together with the new technologies, with the various regulatory constraints, because as we were talking about AML and all the data, everything dealing with the approach from meeting the customer to the accounts with the monitoring authorities. Everything is being integrated, and the management software, Leo, for example, not to mention it, which is the Cortimas software, allows us to extract data and prepare the supervisory sessions without wasting time, without losing data. Now, one more thing is that the advantage also is to avoid repeat data transfer. Everything is being integrated. You start with your management software to the portal of the company, then you proceed with a technical act, for example. This act is validated by the company, and then it comes back to you as a return block in a way, and then integrated in your system. And so things happen step by step. So the idea is to provide a solid tool, consistent tool to the broker, so that we can open it to the final customer and make it available to the final client, so that he can use it as an application on his mobile phone, so that he can have his portfolio, contract, update live with the company. Now everything is being integrated, so really a sort of a broker customer way path, so that we can reduce mistakes, and so the customer can use this application more easily. So.
Just to come back to what Nicolas said about paper, with this broker app we have, the customer receives his data, his information in a PDF format. He can then use an authorized signature. And I've recently checked the info available. Some 350,000 documents were signed since we've had these signatures on online broker. And well over 1,500 offices or brokerage companies enable the customers to sign in a legal and secure manner these documents. And the app online broker can actually be customized depending on what you want the customer to be entitled to do. Okay, let me come in. You mentioned something which is legal. Now, there should be some methods enabling us to have a hand over what is possible. Maybe we can continue regulate. I believe that in the medical field, there are discussions about having access to the medical records or not. And when we talk about digitalization, we tend to think that things are going to become more simple, that things will be facilitated. And certainly the customer's life is facilitated. It enables you to have more sharing of info, etc. There are two aspects I wanted to highlight, but of course there are many legal aspects concerning digitalization. You mentioned an electronic signature. Now, can I say that the digitalization of any contractual process must be approached in a very careful way? Because one signature may, in order for a signature to be recognized according to Luxembourg law as being approved, needs to comply with a number of criteria. Let us not go into details of what criteria have to be fulfilled, but in order for another party not to challenge this, there is also a need to take into consideration certain requisites. And then you need to save these documents over time. Thus, we have a specific technology which enables you to sign documents, but this technology needs to be available for the duration of the document concerned. These documents are being kept for 10, 20, 30 years, even more. So we need to make sure that the signature can never be challenged. Now, we've talked about different digital tools which can be used. We want to facilitate things for the customer so that they can have access to documents. And of course, here we are confronted with the general regulation on data, on personal data. I will not go into details of the GDPR because we know that it involves a lot of requirements on behalf of companies, and in particular when we're talking about the medical sector, but we need to make sure that things are done appropriately. Medical data cannot be dealt with by just any company. And in Luxembourg, we used to have a 2002 law concerning the protection of data, and we had specific provisions regarding medical data to be dealt with by insurance companies. Now, with the GDPR, things are different, and you just have to have the consent of the person concerned. A draft law was presented in 2019. It is still being discussed. The idea is to have a new legitimacy basis which would actually facilitate the situation. A different type of consent, which is different from the consent in LLP, of course, but there is a need to be very specific, to be clear, to take into consideration all the elements pertaining to the electronic signature, etc. Now, in view of this possible new legislation, we'll have to reconsider the issue. Now, of course, law is developed at a slower rate than new technologies, but we have to take that into consideration. Okay, let us also remember the fact that cyber criminality is an important aspect. People are driving to more digitalization, but we also know that in some countries, in fact, there are requests which are being made so that if there are cases of hijacking, one should not pay the ransom, etc. Okay, we still have 3 or 4 minutes left regarding the presentation. Hello, my name is Rastos Polante from KPMG. We've been mentioning digitalization. We have been talking about taking distance from paper. Now, have you ever heard of the concept digitalization of the broker's role? That's a very interesting question. Could you be more specific, please? Well, EDD, the customer journey, means you need to consider the means and requests of the customer, then find the appropriate offers on the market, then submit them to the customer. The customer then makes a choice, and we have to convince that the choices made by the customer are in line with his means and requests or her means and requests. Now, this is a very lengthy process for the broker. It's also very costly for the broker. Can one digitalize that process? Answer. Well, to come back to that very interesting software, I'd like to say that part of the process is already digitalized. Of course, in addition to that process, there is a need for personal contact, a human contact. Maybe my colleague can provide some more information. Yes, of course, it is a matter of knowing how complex the product is. Are we talking about live or non-live? There is already a process where different scenarios are included. It will depend on the type of management of when a prospect becomes a customer. So the profile, of course, of the person has to be defined. Is it a politically exposed person we're dealing with? What is his or her identity, profession? Are we actually involved here in issues concerning AML? Anyway, through that process, sorry, I'm interrupting you. I want to say that we are trying to make the market more standardized. Yes, you're right. In fact, the live product will be actually included in the new release in October. We call it Branch 23 in our country. We talk about life insurance, and there are possibilities. We have a concept, which is exchange of concepts, and we have this possibility to contact the customers, and it's enshrined in the portal of the company itself. Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions? Nathalie? Well, it seems that you were very clear. If there is any question, please press on the button. Take advantage of the presence of the panel members. They are at your disposal, also during the cocktail that will follow this meeting. And I'm sure that there will be some opportunities to meet with the Belgian friends or other representatives. And never hesitate to contact APCAL. We have a working party, and we want to work together so that we can progress together. I'd like to welcome Marie Péchon from the Commissariat aux Assurances, who will say a few words. Oh, apparently Eric wanted to come in before that. Sorry.